Show and Tell Boston After Dark. I'm here with our tester
How you doing, Lamar?
and our special guest.
Farah.
And so, for those who don't know, can you give us a little rundown of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So that list is long, so I don't think we have all night for that. However, I will definitely go over some of the things that I do. So I'm a registered nurse, been in the healthcare field for over 20 years. Um, and with that, had my experience in different areas of healthcare, including dementia, working in the emergency room, mental substance abuse, in different facilities, but have gravitated towards to just being on my own path as an entrepreneur, as a nurse. So just kind of just owning my own title of what wellness is and how we need to provide more wellness to individuals, especially with everything going on in the world. And that's who I am pretty much.
When you talk about wellness, what are you talking about? Like, what is wellness as a whole? Or what are you trying to get people to see?
So wellness hits differently for each individual, right? You could go to one person and, they'll break down wellness of what foods you should eat based upon your diet or your medical diagnosis, right? If any, for me, wellness is not specifically pinpointed to one source. It's looking at the individual as a whole because your body is an ecosystem. So if something is throwing your homeostasis off, you're not technically looking at, okay, like, you are looking at the source of the problem, but you're not hyper focused on that. You're looking at it, okay, how can I fix the source of the problem to bring the equilibrium back to your homeostasis of your body? So wellness to me hits on different levels of mind, body, and spirit,
Yeah.
technically speaking.
And how did you go from, what is it called, like traditional medicine and healthcare to, what is it, more holistic approach?
Holistic approach, yeah.
How did that happen?
Um, long story short, so I did pageants back in the day. That was
nice.
my way of challenging myself. Thank you. I was always the person to challenge myself on some level, and I felt like pageant was that thing where it was like that competitive, but that feminine type of approach. And so within that, I had different coaches for different things. So whether it was me practicing my walk, whether it was me just getting, interview skills together and, practicing questions. And one of my coaches that came upon fitness had told me about a Reiki practitioner that she was seeing. And with that, I decided to then take some sessions for myself. And that was pretty much my tipping point. But what people fail to realize is that everyone has that ability to tap into their inner gifts and skills. I think it just really takes an individual to really be open-minded what that looks like. So my journey really started throughout that transition and me promising myself that year that no matter what, nothing would divert my self-love and self-care to myself. And that was like my major transition, honestly speaking.
So, what made you fall in love with Reiki?
So
Is it Reiki or Reiki?
it's Reiki,
Reiki,
Reiki. So it's a Japanese technique that's been around for decades. So I think it really depends on how you look at it as a culture. Some people might call it voodoo. Some people might call it witchcraft.
You call voodoo, right?
But see, and I think what people lack from that is because of how society tag a lot of things is the negative perspective of what that is. But there's good and bad to everything. I think that's what people fail to realize. So people get scared like, oh, you do voodoo, but it's like spirituality is good and bad. So it's not okay, voodoo is a bad thing. It's voodoo could be good or bad depending on what your intentions are at the end of the day. The same way where you have good witches and you have bad witches, right? So right, you have good energy, you have bad energy, you have high frequencies, you got low vibrational frequencies. So it's a balance. Like the world comes in a balance and you have your decisions of what way that looks like. But I pretty much got more heavily into that because I remember having a discussion with a friend of mine back then, and he had mentioned meditation.
Okay.
And I think in the midst of me doing my Reiki sessions, it was kind of like one day I was in my apartment and I think I had the cable turned off or cut off, whatever the situation was. And I was like, what's this meditation thing about anyway? And I felt like that was like me opening up Pandora's box. It was like no turning from there. It was like I just set my mind to just be quiet, and that was like that was like beyond a phenomenal experience for me, because a lot of people around me, they like got it, and I'm just looking at them like, what are you talking about? I'm scared. I don't even know what the fuck is going on. So it was a different feel for me, but it's very healing and relaxing for me, and it was like one of my go-tos of like really humbling myself and finding out who I am and being in tune with myself and then people around me, and how I could now differentiate who's good for me and who's not good for me, what's good for me and what's not good for me, what makes me happy and what doesn't make me happy. So it really was that being consistent and disciplined and just dedicating myself to that, because that was like my grounding point. So that's pretty much how I got involved in Reiki, and just kind of just like opened up a whole bunch of other opportunities for me upon my journey. So, and here I am.
And I don't know too much about Reiki. I did know it was Japanese, but is meditation like one of the pillars of Reiki, or what is so someone who doesn't really understand it, how would you describe it?
So I think the best way that anyone has mentioned it to me or described it to me as is a massage for your soul.
Okay.
So you go to a massage therapist to help with those knots in your back, right? To kind of loosen up those tightness and tension in your back. So this is more of a energetic cleanse. So it's like you're tapping into your own inner consciousness under the subconscious, and having that practitioner kind of just let you know where your blockages are, because we have 7 chakras, right? So if there's a blockage somewhere where you feel like things that, so we talk about the law of attraction. So certain people who might project certain things to you kind of have to like do a self-assessment. Like, is it me? Is it them? Is it personal? It's kind of like you're checking yourself. So when it comes to meditation, you're just becoming more self-aware of yourself and then everything around you, your surroundings. So this is why a lot of billionaires will talk about, if you want to be this, you got to surround yourself. Like they talk about the secret, but they don't go deep into what the secret is. And it's literally the tip of the iceberg, because there's so much healing that goes in that, and people are not willing to do the work. So it's not like, okay, well, if I think about this is going to manifest. Yes, that's true. But also the negative things that you think about will manifest as well. So it's not just the good and the bad. It's everything.
Yeah.
So it's a whole package. So when it comes to meditation, there's different levels of what that looks like, right? So I have a couple of pre-rolls for you guys as gifts, but I'm just using this as an example because people take this as my personal me time, right? This is my meditation. This is about me. I want to relax. It's Friday. I just want to roll up. It's been a hectic week. I just want to roll up, watch Netflix. That's my meditation. Like, I'm chilling. That makes me happy. I'm feeling relaxed. I'm feeling stress-free. I'm chilling. I'm in a great environment. I'm at home. I got nothing to worry about. You know what I mean? So that could be your meditation, considered your meditation, right? Or you could go into a guided meditation where you're just listening to whatever the guide is about. So whether it's about being grounded or letting go, or just, being in the moment, in the present moment, where you could fall asleep. Some people use meditation to fall asleep. Some people use yoga as a form of meditation. Some people use prayer as a form of meditation. You know what I mean? So I think meditation and what self-love and self-care is such a big umbrella. It's really being broken down to what each individual things kind of lead to the same thing. So they're the same thing, just different aspects of how you use them.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Could I ask you, so when someone like books a session, what does that look like? Do you do the thing where, I think I've seen it in like some YouTube videos where they kind of go like this, and they kind of, I don't know, it looks like they're transferring energy to you? Is that what you...
So the thing is with the hands, right? So we call it, in the Bible, or a lot of people who are into religion, they call it...
laying hands.
The laying of the hands, right. So technically I don't have to touch you, but you can feel my energy. Like, I don't have to, like, most of my clients who do book a Reiki session with me, I don't technically need to be in the room with you because I already have the sensitivity to pick up on the energy wherever you are anyway, right? So, but if I'm in person, then that's different. So if I'm like sitting here, right, talking to you, I could vibe on your energy the same way that you vibe on something. Like your intuition is pretty much your GPS, right? Your energy field GPS guide. So if you walk into a room, it feels funny, you're not gonna be like, oh, it feels funny, let me stay here anyway. Well, if you do, you do. Right?
People have definitely done that.
If you do, right, it's
in an
like
awkward moment.
Exactly.
What's going on?
But then if you listen to your intuition, it's like, okay, well, I don't feel good being here. Let me just leave. All right. So laying of the hands. So technically, see, if I could pick up on an energy on around his knee, right? For example, I could lay my hands there to.
I felt it.
to really just get a grasp of what it is I'm picking up on. Obviously, there's a blockage. I could be like, okay, well, after the session, I could be like, hey, do you have like right knee pain? Like, does it really bother you? Have you got that checked out? So for me, it hits on every practitioner is going to have a different message. However, for me, it kind of works on the medical side or just a personal side. Sometimes I could feel blockage in your heart chakra, but it's because a past relationship, whether it's your mom, your dad, a sister, a sibling, whoever it may be or whatever it may be, then it's kind of like guiding them to provide them the confirmation that people already know, because I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I'm just confirming what you do know. Yeah. And now I'm being able to provide you the tools of how to overcome that, if that makes sense.
Did you ever like feel someone's energy and you're just like, "Ooh, we got to cancel this appointment. There's no saving you."
You know what?
Jujutsu Kaisen.
Honestly, people who reach out to me for my services when it comes to Reiki or readings, because I do readings as well, right? Usually if I'm feeling a certain type of way, first of all, I'm going to ask you what brought you to even want this session, right? Because that would give me an idea of how I can help you. Because if I find myself not to be helpful, then what's the point of me? Because if your answer is vague and I'm picking up on that, I'm going to be like, I think you should try someone else. Yeah. Like, I would never divert you to come to me, because if I don't feel it, if I'm not feeling it, I'm not going to even provide you my services, because something is there preventing me from doing that. And I'm a firm believer in working with the universe anyway. So if anything needs to be diverted, if I feel like there's too much resistance or it's like too much back and forth, like I'm very kind of like whatever's meant for me will come easy, and I don't have to work hard. I don't have to fight for it. Yeah. So if I feel like I'm the one kind of like reaching out to you, or you kind of reach out here and there, I just let it be. Like I don't chase that. Once you get a deeper understanding of how the universe works, there's certain things you're too humble to present that energy into. You know what I mean? So I just deal with it a little different. And if I feel like I'm not the right practitioner for you, believe me, I will refer you to someone else.
Makes sense. That's fair. Respectable. Is there a big Reiki community in Mass?
So they're around. Actually, they look like normal people, right? Most of them are in the healthcare field, whether they're doctors, therapists, nurses. Yeah. Sometimes people are cops and they just happen to, take a Reiki class and now they provide those services, or just for themselves. Like there's no
beat you with a baton and then heal you.
Right, and then heal you. Bring some of that magical healing automatically. But I feel like everyone has their skills and way of bringing healing to the world. We all play our role. I think it's really tapping into how that's helpful to us and other people around us. So,
how's your extensive kind of medical background? You being in the medical industry for, you said, more than like a decade. Is it 2 decades?
A couple of decades.
Yeah, a couple of decades. How has that kind of like enhanced your Reiki kind of performances?
So first of all, to be in the healthcare field, or for any profession for that matter, I feel like some profession might be a little more open to what passion and compassion looks like, especially when you're dealing with illness and someone who's not at their best all the time. So you're dealing with low vibrational people, respectfully, due to why they're in the hospital. So if they're really sick, they project some of that anger towards you. You know what I mean? Maybe back then when I was younger, I wasn't as mindful, but now that I've gotten wiser over the years and noticed why certain opportunities weren't open for me, or if I was in a situation, just being mindful, like, okay, I feel burnt out today. Like I'm already rolling my eyes when I have to wake up in the morning. Just like as I paid attention to how I was feeling, that's when things really started changing, because I've worked in hospitals and different areas of healthcare, and I knew that wasn't my niche. Like, I knew I loved being a nurse. However, it wasn't my thing. Like, I needed to find my own path, and here I am. But overall, like, I think it's really just tapping into who you truly are.
Okay.
And how you want to be treated, because that's my thing. Like, you treat people the way you want to be treated. Like, we've all made decisions and things that we weren't too proud of, but at the same time, to provide that respect to other people so you can get it in return. And then also recognizing if people can't respect you, then you just gotta let them go.
That makes sense. There's different versions and practices of Reiki, right? Which one are you certified in?
So I'm in the URSI, the UC Reiki practitioner. I want to say they all have the same foundation. I think the teaching skills might be a little different based on the background on the professor who founded it and who actually provided those tools to other people.
Okay. And I was going to ask, wait, did you have a question?
I was about to say, like, who founded it?
I can't think of his name right now. You just had to ask that.
I know, I was just thinking about, like,
who founded it? Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I was going to ask, who's like a prime candidate, who would really benefit from like sessions with you? Like who are the types of, what are the types of issues or types of things that, generally Reiki is like probably best for?
That's a great question. I feel like Reiki could benefit anyone, because you've had people who specialize in pregnancy when dealing with Reiki. You have practitioners who specialize in Reiki with pets. You have people who specialize with just Reiki in dealing with like the angels, I guess, depending on your beliefs on what that looks like for you. Just overall, we talk about reincarnation. I won't get too deep into that, but then when you really want to pay gratitude towards your ancestors, we don't really know what that looks like, because people just forget what history is and how we got here, and we've lived multiple lifetimes before we got here, and I won't get too deep into that either. But just paying gratitude to your ancestors and providing that openness for the universe to work in your benefit versus you resisting what you are blocking, right? So I feel like anyone could be beneficial towards the treatment and session. However, it's really about you being open to receive and get what you're seeking. I think just people are in different levels when it comes to that. Some people are fearful, and that's fear-based. Anything is usually the number one killer of you self-sabotaging a lot of things. So yeah, I feel like anyone could benefit from it. The animals. So I mean, there's no age bracket. I think it's really dependent on the specialty on the practitioner.
I was going to ask about that too, because I feel like there's a lot of like negative stigmas about like maybe holistic healing in general, or like maybe even Reiki. Well, I've never even I never indulged in it. I don't think I know anyone who has. I think I was gonna try what's that thing when they put needles in you? Acupuncture. But then I think I watched too much Final Destination.
I almost tried the powder when they snort it up, where they shoot it up your nose.
Yeah.
I almost tried that. But
Definitely not that.
What are some of the negative stigmas, or do you run across people with a lot of negative stigmas about Reiki or holistic practices?
You're always going to find people who see something from a different perspective that's not at your level of what that looks like. You're not going to have everyone that's going to agree with it. I could bring religion to it, even though I'm not a big person to talk about religion, but people who have certain beliefs may not believe in it. But like I said, like, you know, people like to throw tags and titles into something. So we talk about witchcraft, we talk about voodoo, we talk about
Taoism.
black spirits, the devil,
Yeah.
the light workers. Like, there's so many tags and titles to it. So you're not always going to find something. Like, this is why we say the understanding is deeper than what it is. Like, if you know, you know. What is understood does not need to be talked about, period. So if I have to sit there and teach you, it's like, I feel like I'm talking to a wall, because you just don't have that understanding of where I'm coming from. So it could be negative, but that's your perspective, and I respect it, but it works for me, and I'm not a bad person. I might make bad decisions, but we still have that good side to who we are.
Yeah.
We have good and bad within ourselves. The question is, do you checkmate the bad side of you? Do you let it take over your control of your good side as well? So, I mean, when you ask me that question, that's a loaded question, because it really depends on who you ask and where their mindset is at.
I was gonna say, I just feel like a lot of people are selling themselves short, or like cutting themselves short, because they're just not really open to like getting out of their comfort zone.
Gotta do that
You know what I
shadow
mean?
work, baby.
No. I didn't even hear what you said. You
Shadow
kinda, like,
work
whispered.
is important. People don't night of the soul, I like to call it, where people when you're going through your own healing, right? So we talk about good and bad, but like when you're facing night of the soul that you mentioned, it's really you facing your own issues. People don't want to face their own issues and fix it and break generational curses and whatever that looks like for them, because they're scared. They're scared of the unknown. They're scared to take risks. They don't think anything's wrong. Like, they're the shit on the shit on the shit, right? So so when it comes to night of the soul, people don't want to face or hold themselves accountable for shit that they did in the past. So night of the soul is probably one reason why people don't want to take a good look at themselves, because you're not all peaches and cream. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're human. We might have great intentions. We want to be a great person, but sometimes people just want to pull that other side of you, and so therefore you need to check yourself, because the emotional part, what we were talking about earlier, kind of gets you into trouble if you're reacting out of ego. So it's everything's kind of connected. It's just depending how and where you start. So it's a lot of work, self-work, but it's worth it.
It's just homework, really.
Homework.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day homework, though. It's not just, you know, I remember listening to the Breakfast Club, and someone mentioned, like, someone thinks that you just wake up and say, hey, let me be enlightened. Like, people don't realize that in order for you to take that path to be enlightened, that comes with work. Like, I'm realizing, like, I don't have time for the shittery around me, because I'm a lot of work for my damn self. And I love where I've come from where I was, but I'm just so busy working on myself that I just don't have time for the other shit. So when I feel it coming, I could divert it easy, because I'm so focused on me that I could feel it when it's coming from right field or left field or wherever the fuck it's coming from. But at the end of the day, you're so in tune with yourself and focus on yourself, you come to realize people are hating on you because you don't pay attention to them. It's a personal thing now. Like, you're realizing, like, okay, you're mad at me because I'm minding my business. Sound like a personal problem.
Weird.
Right. It's just like people like drama, you know what I mean? Like the chaos. And when you hit a certain level of where you have peace, you don't move, you move
that,
different. For me personally, I don't compromise my energy or my focus for anything. Like, I've just made that promise to myself. Like, I come first respectfully. If you bring something that's beneficial, if we could bring something that's beneficial to each other so we can grow, because this is a growing process, great. But if I feel like that's where you're at and I'm not there and I'm still growing, you're hindering my growth, then I'm gonna leave you where you're at. I ain't got no problems with you. I just can't.
Respectfully.
Not everyone respectfully, right?
Yeah.
Like, respectfully, that's where you're at, but I already passed this test. This is not my level. I got my own shit to deal with. You know what I mean? So I think all that comes with self inner work, and it's not easy, but it's definitely rewarding. It keeps you humble on a lot of perspective. It has you open minded and seeing things from a different perspective, and move a little wiser with what we call life. So
That makes sense. So in Reiki for the practice, do you go to a different Reiki person and they have to do work on you, or are you able to do practices on yourself?
So if you're a Reiki practitioner, so there's 3 levels. There's one where you could just pretty much practice on yourself, right? Just focus on self. There's level 2 where you could practice on yourself and now other people. And then 3 is when you master of working with yourself, other people, and anything that may cover your specialty, whatever that looks like. And then you have your master level where you're actually teaching. But I feel like as a nurse and whatever I do, I'm teaching anyway. So I don't really look at it as a thing, but a lot of people do.
Okay. And how did you can you talk about your cannabis advocacy?
So cannabis. Yeah, so on my journey of becoming a wellness nurse, I hit wellness on different levels, and cannabis is one of them because honestly speaking, it's part of your greens.
The greens. I like that. You see it right here.
It's part of the health.
Trying to be a healthy boy.
It's part of the food pyramid, and I mean, I'll talk about a couple of them, but overall, cannabis came into the wellness part just because, as a nurse, I've encountered a lot of people on different fields, and just listening to their stories of how cannabis pretty much saved their life. Like, we talk about miracles. A lot of people will consider this plant a miracle plant because they were pretty much on their deathbed, and doctors who we were talking about earlier, not that they're not smart. I don't take anything away from the significant doctors who actually put in work into what they do. But however, there's certain things that they don't teach you in medical school. They don't teach you in nursing school. So when someone's coming to you as a client to ask you about feedback like marijuana or cannabis, whatever you want to title it as, they can't respond to you because, first of all, that's not part of how the hospitals and pharmaceutical company work. And for 2, they don't have the knowledge of how the plant works. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they might be smoking on it on the weekend, but to actually be like, hey, you know what I mean? Like, hey, take a couple of puffs. So with cannabis, it was interesting because it's been in my life for a long time. Like, I have friends like in high school who smoke, but I wasn't the smoker. Like, I was like, oh, let me try a beanie. Let me try a black. You know what I mean? That was back then for me. And so other people who would talk about weed, I was just like, I didn't know anything about that. So I had a lot of males who were selling at the time. You know what I mean? That was their thing of side hustling. And like, I would smoke with them every once in a while, and I think the first time I really tried it, I was like, oh, hell no. Like,
was it reg?
You know what? I think it brought me, so I'm going to talk about this briefly because I tell people, I'm like, first of all, if you never smoked before, make sure you're in a safe space.
It's key.
Where you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Make sure you're around a group of people or the person that you're dealing with that you feel secure with. So if you start tweaking, that person is not going to, like, start recording you or, throw you under the bus.
Give you an anxiety attack.
Yeah, like, you don't want to add on to that. So I remember the first time I tried it was at she went to Suffolk at the time, and she had this Indian friend, and he had, like, the whole accessory, right? So I'm tall, a little heavier, and he's like blowing smoke in my face, like, take it. And he's like, you don't feel that? And I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
Like, and then finally when we hit outside, we had to go to Chinatown to, like, go grab something to eat. I think my paranoia, and maybe it was just the energies around me, you know what I mean? Because that plays a role too, especially if your brain is not fully developed. So that's why they usually tell you at 21, you should then, because your brain's technically fully developed, so you won't have these psychotic outbreaks, right?
Because how old were you?
Say that again?
How old were you? You were like 16, 17?
At the time, no. So I was like probably in my 20s then.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I tried it. We went to go eat, and I was like, "Oh, y'all trying to fucking kill me? I'm all set." Yeah, I think I took like a sip of like the soup. It was like sweet and sour soup, and it just hit different. And I was just like, "Oh, nah, fuck y'all.
Yeah.
I'm out of here." And then I felt like I was really tweaking because I got into the taxi cab, and I'm like telling him the address, and I felt like he was looking at me funny. I was like, you know what I said. You know what I mean? Just take me home. And it was just like an experience. As soon as I got home, I just knocked out. And I think that was my first experience. I was like, I'm never doing this shit again. And then when I got into my 30s, I was like, all right, like, we could be cool. You know what I mean? Like, we're chilling. Because for me, smoking was like more recreational at the time, right? It was kind of like I'm chilling, social, and then things like that. But then I think that was my tipping point too. I had just finished grocery shopping. I was in my apartment. I had some weed, and I was like, you know, we get the munchies.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, fuck that. I'm not ordering any food. By the time I order it, it gets here. Like, I'm probably more than hungry. Like, it's no longer munchies anymore, right? Because munchies needs to be available, right? So that was my thought process. And so I didn't do that, but I flipped my mindset. At least for me at that time, that was me flipping my mindset. Like, I have all this food that I can actually indulge in. So I flipped my mindset instead of like, let's go to Wendy's, let's go to McDonald's, let's go grab something real quick, wasting gas, wasting more money. It was like, all right, let me cook something a little healthy. Let me just grab some snacks. It's right here. And that was like my tipping point when I actually could like really connect cannabis with how it affected me to a certain level. And as I got more used to it, did my research on it, I was like, okay, so we go way back. Like, we have chemistry. This is like my soulmate, right?
Yeah.
It's my twin flame. Let's talk about it. So it was more like me doing my research then. It was like, okay, so why we got so much beef with the plant? Like, it comes from the earth. You know what I mean? So my only argument was, as a nurse, like, these human-made medication, I see people dying from them every day in the emergency room. And I have yet to see anyone overdose on weed yet, guys. Like, this is facts.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you might fall into some situations, but we're not knocking you up with Narcan. We're like, hey, here's some fluids. Go to sleep. I'll wake you up in 2-3 hours, and don't worry, I won't call your mom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, my perspective when it came to, like, medicine versus like medicine from the earth, it put me in an awkward bind because now I'm not really supporting how the hospital want me to treat my patients.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like, we're losing sense of what that looks like. So cannabis came after, but it was definitely part of my journey, and it made it more important for me to educate other people about it because people are still conflicted. They still bring religion into it. And I'm like, okay, but if you do your research, you'll know that cannabis is used for spiritual reasons.
Yeah.
Like, guys, like, you know what I mean? Like, we talked about education earlier and how it could be for free, but people don't want to do the research. It's like, look up cannabis. It's not that hard. You're on your phone all the time. Like, just type it in, right? You know, like they bring religion into it or they bring in the government. I'm like, but if you do your history about the government and why it was banned, it's because they were hating.
Yeah.
They
Like,
wanted to make their little penny off of it.
Short,
Gonna make the money off of it, yeah.
I was like, long story short, this angry, white, miserable man, old man, literally, was like, hey, I'm part of this senator seat, whatever role he played, and he pretty much cut off all ties because, first of all, there's actually a documentary on Netflix where I think Snoop's on there and a couple of other legendary musicians and artists, and they talk about that. They talk about how different cultures have different stories behind cannabis, right? So, like, the story now leads into one day, what was the story? That a black man was on an elevator, a white woman happened to hop on, and we don't know what happened, right?
Yeah.
Speculation, just like the tabloids are now in 2022, but speculation. And then she raised whatever accusation that she had and said that she was raped by this black man, right? So then cannabis became a thing. Like, you can't feel good. But I'm like, you guys want to talk about cannabis. A lot of our music came from cannabis intaking artists.
Back to jazz.
Because that's what we use
Jazz
as
cigarette,
black.
right?
Yeah, as black people, period. Like, we jive. That's what they called it then, was jive. But it was like, it was something to make us feel good. It was to produce feel good music. Like, we vibing. Like, even Snoop now. Like, I have a picture of Snoop, but this man's blunts is like the size of my head, and like they just vibe. Listen, like, I don't even know how people even get through that. Honestly speaking, but it's true. Like, the music, even people we listen to now, you know what I mean? Like, they smoke, but they smoke because that's how. Like, for me, like, I smoke whether I feel a little under the weather, if I feel a little anxiety, like, I tap in, like, I have to. Maybe sometimes I'm like, I'm not feeling nothing. Let me just smoke to make sure I'm still not feeling, you know, what I'm not feeling.
Yeah.
Fair enough,
Like, I use it part of my spiritual practices just because I use it to meditate. Like, that's my me time. Like, I had a long day.
Yeah.
Let me just take a shower, throw on some, like, a bath salts. That's all part of my meditation. That's part of my self-love, self-care. So when I smoke and people have a negative perception about it, it's like, but what's your beef with it? Have you tried it? Maybe you need some.
Maybe.
Maybe you need a couple of puffs. But that's how cannabis came into route, and that's why I have, like, samples on the table too, to kind of give people an idea of how it could be used and ingested, because it's not just smoking. You can use them as a complete meal, as a beverage, as a massage oil type thing. Especially I talk about intimacy, because intimacy and sex are, like, part of our wellness as well. We don't talk about that. I hear you in the background.
It's our producer Shane.
I don't know what that is.
He's like, yes. He's like, yes, we need to talk about that. So,
I'm a good
like,
boy.
I talk about intimacy. I talk about intimacy and sex, of how they're two different things. They're not the same at all. So, like, you know, just setting the mood for yourself, because I feel like if you take care of yourself as such, then you'd be able to provide that to your partner. You'd be able to provide that to people around you. So it's not technically about, like, how do I become enlightened? It's really like, okay, well, let's focus on self, what that looks like, and then move from there. So
Yeah, can you guide us through all the different samples you had?
I mean, some of you guys already had some, right? So I had a platter here that had, like, greens. So the salad,
Not the smokable greens, the edible.
No, the edible greens. However, I had, like, fruits on there, tomatoes, and the turkey cabeza with homemade aioli sauce. And the thing is with that, it's just a sample, but, like, little things like that. So, like, the cabeza, you could actually turn that to a superfood by frying that in infused oil, right? So whether it's coconut oil, olive oil, vegetable oil, your salads, you could make your own vinaigrette. So you could use infused oils and just add lemon, seasoning, and what and whatever else that you need. That turns into a superfood as well. Your fruits, if you're, like, into fruits, incorporating more fruits into your, like, your breakfast, you could actually drizzle some infused honey on there. Too juicy over there.
Yeah, that's how you know it's good.
There you go. I got you.
You said put honey on it. Infused honey?
Yeah, so they make infused honey. You could drizzle that on your fruits, and you turn that into a superfood. And then I had, like, the cinnamon roll, peaches, pecan, monkey bread. So it's really intimate with, if you like to eat with your hands, if you're, like, kind of just hanging out or have guests over, you could use that infused too. You put some butter in there, or drizzle with some honey. Because what happened is, with the plant, it technically attached itself to fatty tissues.
Okay.
So this is why when we talk about people trying to pass a urine drug screen, it really depends on how much adipose tissue you have and how much fat you take in, because that's really what draws it in, and how much exercise. It actually helps you have the THC in your system longer. Doesn't make you thicker.
Okay.
So if you know that you have to go for a drug screen, people talk about different ways of getting clean, but it really depends on your body mass, your index, you know, if you're active, what you're eating, and things like that. So that plays a role. And then, like, you know, the edibles, I know people talk about edibles, but it really could be an appetizer to like a full course meal, to like cupcakes or anything else. I know people tend to tag edibles to like gummies and brownies, but you can actually have a full course 3-plated meal that
Cheese.
like I do at my at my workshops. So I provide a hands-on experience. So it's not just about educating you about the flower. It's more like, okay, but now you get to eat that. Like, how did you feel about that? Like, this is, you know, now your appetizer, your snacks, your main course meal, and then dessert, and it's all infused. Even your beverage is infused. So it's like, okay, does that work for me? How does that make me feel, and etc. So cannabis for me hits on both the recreational and the medicinal side, just because people suffering from different issues like MS. So to add on to the title, I'm a cannabis herbalist. So that kind of ties into if you came up to me and was like, hey, I'm having like fibroid issues. So now I could like look at different strands that will provide you the wellness that you may need to help with intervening with some of those issues. But yeah, so that's some of the examples that I have on here that I made. I love to cook, so I have a thing for the kitchen. Go ahead. That's so in Creole. There's a treat, I want to call it, or a snack that's called tablette noire, and it's just cashew brittle.
Cashew brittle.
It's like a giant popcorn.
It's like those toffee type of a peanut, but tablet, yeah. So it's not sweet, but it's addictive. I feel like for me it's addictive because I could not just go for one bite.
The sauce was great.
The sauce was
You
great.
like the
sauce was
aioli
great
sauce?
with
Okay.
the turkey, kielbasa. Throwing a little bit of that goat cheese on there.
Oh, you were good. You like the goat cheese?
Yeah, just a little bit. You know, not too much. You know, not gratuitous.
A little creamy.
You know, yep, and add a little tomato. You know. I I
To
had
refreshing your palate.
Yep,
Yep,
I,
I got you.
A little bit. Yep.
And it's cool that
I swear it's never happened before.
you're mixing your heritage and in cannabis as well, because this is pickles, right? So you can infuse it with that.
Yeah, so the pickles is something that I actually made for a pop-up that I did. I like to bring some of the culture of what we eat to a different light of whether it's infused or not. So, like, these are examples, but pickles is like something common that is used as a condiment in most Haitian restaurants. It ain't spicy like everyone else's pickles, but it does the job.
Can you hold it up for the camera?
Yes.
Pickles. Honestly, pickles were always too spicy for me.
Was it? Some people just love that spice.
And
I don't think it's the spiciness that gets people, it's the heat that comes
kind of
after.
robust.
Oh, yeah.
It's like starts slow
'Cause
and then
yeah.
builds up and
Because something could be spicy and go away. The heat lingers. Yeah. So I think it's the heat.
And so, do you cater or do you like?
Come with so many skills. I don't tend to cater, but I've had catering experience where like my friends will.
So I got a crew real quick. Just hey, you just do this real quick.
Yeah, so I have a problem with always wanting to help people, right? Or maybe it's not a problem, but in certain situations, I tend to offer an extended helping hand, and like I find myself in situations like always want to do too much and more, and so like the catering, I wouldn't call it catering, but I will make a few things for a friend or two.
okay.
So
Good
going
to
into the cannabis. Oh, sorry.
That was good to know.
No, I was saying going
Give
to
me
the
a call.
cannabis herbalist advocacy thing. So you bring these for like pop-up workshops, for like information sessions, or what else do you do? Do you try to get bills passed, or?
So I don't try to get bills passed, just because I think a lot of people who are going that route are looking to open up their business on a different level when it comes to cannabis. For me, I already have an idea of what my business I will want my business to look like. And because I carry so many skills and provide so many services, I feel like I don't need to put everything in the forefront. I could put what's eye-catching in the forefront and then deal with everything behind stage. That's usually where the money-making situations are anyway.
So do you offer like sessions? So, because you said, well, is that part of the Reiki sessions? Like you like, hey, try some cannabis too.
So no, yes and no, because not everyone's into cannabis, right? So I respect that. So my thing is I focus on the self-love, self-care part and techniques. So the journaling, the mind intentions, manifesting. I feel like a therapist because usually if I'm going in for a reading, it ends up being this thing where now it's a conversation and certain things are being talked. And I think maybe it's just my energy too, because people feel so comfortable and open that I'm not expecting some of the stuff that they're telling me. And then I got to take it with a grain of salt. Like, damn, this is HEPA. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what made you feel? And people just end up telling me, like, I just feel comfortable just opening it. I'm like, yeah, but can you give me like a heads up next time? You know, we just met like 3 seconds ago. So I think with the sessions, it's one thing. Some people know about it. Some people are not into Reiki and they don't know about it. The same way some people will go to a psychic for a reading or vice versa. If they're already into cannabis, then that's different because now all I'm doing is the foundation of for my non-cannabis users. I'm just giving you other tools to enhance the benefits of smoking or however you're taking it, right? Because it's not like every 3 minutes that you feel stressed out, you're going to go smoke. Like, that's not always going to be the helpful situation, right? Sometimes you just need to take 3 seconds and go for a walk and connect with nature. Sometimes you just need to write down how you're feeling or how your day was, because no one wants to listen to you complain, right, at the end of the day, because now everyone thinks you're miserable. You're trying to take them down that hole. So I think for me, it's the basics, and then you got those who are into it, some who are attempting to learn more about it, and then those who think they know everything about it because of the generation that they used it in. And now I'm providing them with more effective knowledge. So knowledge is part of your wellness. They're all connected. The food, the people around you, the energy around you, your environment, everything. So it's like they're all connected. It's really where you're at and what your goals are to move forward.
That makes sense. Can you tell us a little bit more about the readings you do?
What about them?
I don't know. You brought them up, so I want to know what is that?
So my readings. So I do Akashic readings.
I don't know what that is.
So do you know what that is?
Nope, I don't.
No, you don't? Okay, so if you look it up, they talk about Akashic being the book of life, right? So everyone has their own book of life, the same way we talked about earlier that everyone's on their own path, right? So the Akashic reading pretty much could hit, we talk about past, present, and future. However, with the Akashic reading, we could go as far back as we want. Because what happened is, like for me, right, for example, I'm sure I could have done better in school. However, school wasn't my thing. Like, I knew I learned differently. I knew if you didn't get my attention, if you weren't talking about anything I cared about, I was blocking you out. Yeah. Like, what are you saying? Shakespeare. Like, who cares? You know what I mean?
That was...
Exactly. It was just my thing. So, with that being said, now I lost track. Okay, so when it came to history, I wasn't a big fan of history. But when they talked about Egypt, I was like, oh, what about Egypt? And it always, like, kind of followed me. You know what I mean? Like, always felt, like, fascinated by the way they went through the mummification and how they just, like, embrace the fact that they wanted you to be happy in the afterlife. And they will put gems and all this other stuff. Like, they don't talk about that.
They throw some of your slaves with you, too.
Well, that's the thing. Like, a lot of people don't talk about that, right?
Yeah.
Especially now. Like, I feel like there's so much history that people don't want to talk about history. They want to talk about what's going on now. And then by the time you get to the present, there's so much bullshit going on now. It's like, well, damn, you know what I mean? We're still talking about history. So for me, I always had a connection with Egypt, even throughout growing up. And obviously, that's come up in my readings when I was interested in getting readings and confirmation then that I do have a past lifetime. But I already kind of knew that. So I think that's what helped me evolve, too, along my spiritual journey, knowing my rank of where my spirituality is and what my past lifetime was. And, okay, I was on this level and y'all motherfuckers took all my shit. So I'm coming back in this lifetime to take my shit back. You know what I mean? So like I said, it really just falls under the understanding of who you are, why you connected to, because your DNA does not just go back to like your parents and your grandparents. We're talking about ancient of years ago, and people forget about that. So when that ignorance of, oh my goodness, you don't look like me, and it's like, okay, but how many other family members have you had in your family before your baby finally just came to appear this way? You know what I mean? So for me, it's just the Akashic reading is more of my specialty because I tend to channel. Some people like to use cards and other tools. It just doesn't vibrate with me depending on who I'm speaking to. So I think it really depends who I'm encountering with. But other than that,
So are you reading palms, or like are you just kind of like you just have the person, you just feel the energy? How does the reading kind of like work?
So messages just come to me, depending on what it is or who I'm speaking to. Sometimes messages come to me and I just be like, okay, before we get started, I'll just say, this is what's coming to me. Does that resonate with you? Or it could be like, well, if I'm not getting anything, it's like, okay, well, what do you want to know? Because what I'm getting is I can't answer what you want to know if I don't know or they don't know what you want to know. We can't guide you the way that we need to for you to move forward from wherever you're inquiring.
What are some of the messages that you do kind of get for people?
If you could divulge in that.
Like,
I wish they were here with me. It would be better for them to talk about their own experience with me, because it's always quite fascinating for me, at least at the time when I'm providing these messages for people, because it's a little scary, especially if you're not used to it or you're getting So I talked about the first time when I meditated. So I had my connect at the time, and he was like my weed person, and he was that person, and I was like, you want me to do what? Like, I felt like I was losing it, right? Because it hit me so strong, and it was like, you want me to do what? You want me to call him and say what? Like, I was having this conversation with myself, like, all right, like, I'm tweaking. He's not going to believe me. Like, he's going to be like, Farah, like, you probably need to lay off with the weed, right? So, my first experience was with him. I gave him a call, and I said to him, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck is going on, but your dad, it was his dad who came in really strong for me. I was like, your dad said X, Y, and Z. I'm like, I don't know what's going on with your grandmother, but she having a heart condition. Like, it just came, like, I'm very clairvoyant, very clairaudient. And so it was just coming, and he was the one that kind of just like opened up that passage for me too. He's like, you clairvoyant? I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. Don't ask me no questions. This is like bullshit. Why do I gotta call you about this? And it was so interesting because I'm an empath too. So I could pick up on his feelings, and it got to the point where I think it was just so much for him. And I made sure I asked him too when I called. I'm like, you got someone in the car? And he's like, nah, it's just me. I'm like, all right, big boy, well, this is what it is, right? And then I'm like, are you crying? Like, it felt like he was holding it in, and because he was projecting it or trying to find a way I was now expressing all those emotions. I was like, are you fucking crying? You're making me fucking cry. Can you stop? Like, can you own your shit? And it was like an experience, and I think it was an experience for both of us because it was so like left field for him that he already knew. He's like, you clairvoyant? I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I just know your dad said get your shit together. You know what I mean? It was kind of like those conversations. And I think as time went on and I've just learned to embrace it, like even now, like I know when it's a confirmation and when it's like a message coming through, and I'll let people know. I'm like, all right, well, I don't know. You got a grandmother who passed away, and you know, people will be like, oh my God, I always wanted to go to a medium. I'm like, okay, well, they chose me. I didn't choose. You know what I mean? So I feel like the messages come naturally if I have like a close, like my inner circle, like because they're so energetically like close to me. I'm usually the one calling like, hey, what's up? Like, I felt like I need to holler at you. Who pissed you off? Who did it at work? Like, I'm the sensitive one in that aspect where it's like, who did it? Why did it? And then sometimes it sucks because I have a message and then it's like, how do I deliver this message? Because the way I'm getting it
sounds
like,
crazy.
Yeah, or it's like my guys are so angry that I can't be as angry because I don't know. Right? It's like, why you so mad? Hold on. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I got to put my brakes a little bit and then take it at a different angle because now I'm like, am I tweaking? Like, I got to self-assess myself. Like, am I tweaking? Or am I literally forced to have this conversation with someone that I don't want to have this conversation with? And that's part of my growth process too, because if I'm holding back information that is going to protect you, holding that back information, and this is where it gets really deep for me.
Will that eat you up?
It will, because I have to force myself to ask myself certain questions like, you know, this is part of your karma, right? If I don't tell him what he needs to know, because the message I'm getting is not for me. It's for the person. Yeah. So if I'm holding back information from you guys that you need to know, right? How does that work for me? It doesn't.
Can that hinder you a little bit? You know? Can that hinder you a little bit? Internally?
It's a battle. It's a battle. I think now that I got into a space where I'm like, I don't give a fuck.
Okay, there you go.
Nice.
I think there's a thin line of I don't care, and then when I get to I don't give a fuck, then that's a whole different interaction. You know what I mean? Because now my delivery, if I was more mindful of being want to protect your feelings, now it's like I don't care how you feel because I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? And if that's the energy I'm getting upstairs for the message, I usually have to hold back because I'm like, let me just make sure that I'm really feeling this way. So sometimes I sleep on it, like with my friends or certain people that come into my life, and I'm like, all right. And usually the first thing I say is like, what are they here for? Are they here to teach me something? Am I here to teach them? Are they here for a lifetime, a season, or what? Like, I need to know these things up front. You know what I mean? And however the message play, as soon as I feel like I need to take an exit, I'm out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm very mindful and protective of my energy, which is, I think people might see it as a curse and a blessing at the same time, but I feel like it's there to protect you for a reason. So, yeah.
No, that makes sense. On that note, we're going to take a quick break and be right back. After Dark, we're back. We have a new guest with us.
Hey, what they do is your boy Most Generous, artist, producer, actor, the whole shebang. What is happening? Come meet the family.
And so you just tried one of the samples that she brought.
Oh, man, I feel like I'm in a whole new groove, okay? Like this right here, shout out Gardens by Gilf. Y'all put your soul in this. Like, this feels so good. I was just outside. I just took a few puffs. I'm like, I must be in Africa.
Take you back to the motherland.
Hell yeah. You know?
Shout out to Gardens by Gilf. He actually had him. Actually, I have a couple of his samples here. I was a big fan of the other one. So this is Mango. Ooh. And usually mango is an indica for those who are interested in relaxation before going to bed. And this is a blueberry.
Oh, it's shaped like a star, literally.
That is pretty cool.
Yo, that's pretty cool.
And that's indica as well?
I wish I had that.
Blueberry, I'm not too sure of. But I personally am more of a sativa person, which is more uplifting. Indica has to be for something that I'm really gonna like wind down. Or if I have like my day set up, take a nice hot shower. If I hop in a jacuzzi, while I'm in the jacuzzi, I'm, puffing whatever, listening to meditation music or just listening to some like R&B, whatever mood I'm in, that would be like my setup for a relaxation if I'm dealing with indica. Sativa is more like uplifting. If I'm feeling kind of down, anyone who usually suffers from depression,
Okay.
is usually recommended to smoke sativa to bring them out of that lazy,
Funk.
sleepy,
Right.
depressive, funky, vibrational, whatever it is that they're going through. And sometimes people have the adverse effect. So usually what's supposed to make you sleep is usually the opposite effect. So it really depends on the person's endocannabinoid system and how your nervous system also breaks down the cannabis. So,
Oh, okay.
but shout out to Gardens Gilf.
I'm about to take
They
more.
love that.
Yeah.
I gifted
I'm not
everyone
playing.
one, so whoever got one definitely got one. But shout out to Gilf.
And so we were talking about on the break. We were talking a little bit about sex and intimacy. And does cannabis play a role in that at all?
So cannabis could play a role in anything. I talk about setting your intentions, and smoking is like one of the main things that I tell people is very important to know where your mindset is at. Because we talked about paranoia earlier, if you're in a paranoid mindset and you're smoking and you don't feel safe, that paranoia will definitely be showing to your environment. When it comes to the intimacy, and we were briefly talking about this during the break, it's not that. So for me and from my research and the way I set up my workshops and educating people is that cannabis along with food could be considered aphrodisiac, right? So if you're having strawberries and you have chocolate and that's infused, like you don't technically need to smoke to be in that intimate setting. However, intimacy is more of enjoying someone's presence without the physical aspect. So I think that's where there's a thin line between the sex, which is a mindset, versus intimacy where you're actually enjoying this person. Like you can't get enough of them where you could be around them on a regular basis. So like food is an intimate thing. Smoking is an intimate thing because I won't just smoke with anybody personally because it fucks up my energy. But like smoking is a thing and it could be intimate if you guys are both into smoking and you guys both are sexually healthy. You have a deeper connection with that intimacy because your intimacy could turn into that foreplay. That foreplay in regards to like using terpenes that I didn't talk about, but like terpenes is part of the growth process of cannabis plants, and we use that for aromatherapy. So massage oils, essential oils, diffusers. That sets the mood, right? If you're coming home or if you're like setting up for your partner to come home, like you set up the mood, the candles, the diffuser, the music. That's all part of your wellness, but that's an intimate moment for you to set it up because you want that person as soon as they walk through that door or they come into that room that they already feel that energy, right? So it could play many roles. I think it just really depends on where you're at with your partner because not everyone is going to be on the same page when it comes to that. And some people do use cannabis for sexual as a tool to help them enhance their sex drive. So the same way that you would take Viagra, it's just a safer way of smoking or taking a plant than taking a pill that might affect other systems.
Yeah, and
I haven't gone on the Viagra route yet.
yeah, actually, it's so crazy. This is true. So like, I used to watch Animal Planet a lot, right? And they talked about the venom from a Brazilian wandering spiders, from the spider itself is so powerful that it actually enlarges your erection for like over an hour.
Let's get those spiders.
Yeah.
You're
I'm
on
trying
your
to be
own
like,
with that.
it's interesting. But yeah, like, but other than that, like, I also I in my personal experience, I have tried cannabis before, and especially when we're being intimate. And it's very exhilarating. I say that, like, very exhilarating, because initially it's always, because I remember you mentioned about intention. So like, you know, we had to like talk, like well, also, you know consensual, obviously, but
Right.
also like we also had to like feel out the vibes, like listen. It's like, yo, what type of music you listen to? Oh, I love Aaliyah. I'm like, what? Aaliyah, get out of here. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I listen to Common. Oh, okay.
Right.
We just like, and um and I just asked her like, hey, you want to try some edibles? And at the time I had like uh fudge brownies, but I told her like, yo, you gotta be careful about how you eat these, because they're really strong. So like, we what is it called?
Microdose, yeah.
Microdose, and
Was that sex
eventually,
better than sober sex?
yo, yes, yes.
I mean, honestly, I think.
I'm sorry to cut
No,
you
go
off.
ahead.
It felt like drunk sex because we were both intoxicated. Like our body, like our body high was just like, it felt very intense.
Open.
Yeah, but open,
Yeah.
and also like my heart was racing. Like, so, but other than that, yeah, like it was just a very exhilarating.
So I don't want to compare smoking to drinking, because drinking is a total different effect versus smoking. Drinking is an antidepressant, which will slow down your nervous system. I'm not saying that cannabis cannot affect your nervous system, but drinking is an antidepressant, right? So when you're drunk talking, people say the truth comes out, because you're not really, your insight is not 1,000% there. Like, there is poor insight there,
Yeah.
right? Whether you want to remember what you said the next day or not is different. So I feel like drunk sex is different, because you may not remember, and if it was horrible, you're definitely not gonna remember, right? Or you might regret it. Versus when you're smoking, you're really just we talked about feeling good, so you're tapping into what your energy is at that moment. And that's why I talk about, like, you could smoke with your partner and have great sex, right? So the difference between being intimate with your partner prior to having sex is that healthy, intimate sex lives does not lead you to having sex multiple times a week. Like, people will say, okay, I need
Sounds
to have
terrible.
sex 3
That's
to 4.
horrible.
But if you look at it though, and this is where energy comes in. There's a book called The Orgasmic Couple, and there's one for men and women, and this is written by medical doctors, nurses, whatever healthcare license that they are certified in. And I talk about this too, right? So people forget that when you have sex with someone, you're exchanging your energy.
Oh, that's sexual transmutation, right?
Pretty much, yeah. So you're exchanging energy. But the problem is, people don't realize that just because you depart from that person does not mean you have parted ways energetically on a sexual level with where you met that person or how you encountered. People don't realize, like, that shit catches up with you, where it fucks up your relationship moving forward. Or people who have the power of the dick or power of the pussy, or however people want to break it down, that could be really dangerous and detrimental to your life and your lifestyle moving forward.
Yeah.
So it's not just about being intimate with someone. It's a deeper connection. It's more than just sex, because you could be, I'm not saying sex is not an important tool in a relationship. I'm just saying that you could be satisfied in a relationship based on how deep your intimacy is with that person. And sex is just an extra asset. The same way, if I met someone that had like all the great qualities I was looking for in a relationship, and yeah, money's important, but that's not the number one thing. Like, I don't see myself getting with someone because they have money, because money does not buy my happiness, where other people don't mind sacrificing their happiness because of money, right? Expecting to get that, avoid that they're lacking in their life, to be how do you call it, replaced with something materialistic, right? So I feel like when it comes to cannabis, it's more about a vibe, where you're at, you're really just tapping into each other's emotion on a different level. And then the sex is even more spectacular because now it's just free flowing. Like there's no judgment, there's no worry.
I guess that's what I meant. I didn't want to, compare it, but like as far as, just feeling free and also I wanted to,
I get that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to put that the difference between like the drunk sex versus cannabis could be used as like an enhancer of having great intimate sexual activities with someone. I just wanted to like make it clear, like it's probably better if you went the cannabis route versus the drinking route.
Definitely.
But
Drunk
at the
sex
same
sounds more
time, it's
Yeah,
definitely
it is.
sloppy.
It is.
And that's all I gotta say about that.
Yeah, I mean, sloppy toppy is always good.
It's definitely sloppy because you're not gonna remember anything.
Off
That's
the
true.
Henny? Ooh, stop
I mean,
Henny dick.
if you into white liquor or dark, depending what devil you want to wake up that night, you know what I mean?
Sandiest cheeks. Oh man.
Can I ask you, going back to the exchange of energy to sex? So, do you think that affects men and women the same exact way? Say, like a man and a woman both have a body count of like 300.
Okay.
Do you think that they would both equally be kind of like distraught from that exchange of energy, or would the woman feel it more than the man?
Well, that's a good question. First of all, I can't speak on behalf of either or. All I can say is the major difference is, regardless of if the body count was equivalent, is the fact that whoever he or she fucked with or has sex with are different individuals. And they carry different energies from whoever so remember in school that like if you have sex with this person, you're having sex with everyone they had.
Cooties,
so technically that's what it is. So even though if we each share 300 bodies, my energetic feel when it comes to sex and how I deal with it is also affected by the other people that those people had sex with. So if they had sex with 3,000 other people, then I'm dealing with 3,000 other energies that is now presently fucking with me, and I don't know how to release or let go of that. Do you see what I'm saying? And vice versa. I don't think there's really I mean, you hear females say, "Oh, good D," and it's like, but you could get that. For me, I'm looking at it, you could get it anywhere, right? Like, what technically is the definition of good D?
Good stroking, good angling.
Yeah,
good
but
size.
someone who's not educated on that, and a female who may not be interested in that, and that's another thing. Like, people need to be educated. The way that your stroke work for X, Y, and Z may not work for A, B, and C.
That's true.
The size of your penis does not mean anything to me, because just because you are well endowed does not mean you know how to use your tool. Period.
So you give a guy with like 3 inches, like you give him a chance?
I mean, is it really all about the size, or is it pleasurable?
Is 3 inches pleasurable? I don't know.
I
wouldn't know. I wouldn't know.
I don't know. I'm just saying in general, like this.
I mean,
I'm just saying, for a female who's not quote unquote tight to you, is that pleasurable to someone who's quote unquote looser?
I guess so. No, it's even if it's loose, generally like the female vagina will retract. Just gotta give it some time.
You gotta give who time?
The vagina to retract. It'll get back its shape. It'll get back its size.
Yeah, but are you sticking around long enough to find that out, or you just? It depends on your relationship with this person, right?
It depends on the relationship.
But it still does not feel the same, correct? Based on your, I mean, I'm not a guy, I don't know. I just know based upon conversations. However, based on your experience, someone who is quote unquote has not been sexually active versus someone who has a very appetizing sexual appetite. Now, if you're going in dealing with these two individuals from two different backgrounds, is the pleasure based upon her tightness, or is it just based upon the fact that you're getting ass?
Usually, you don't expect the female to kind of do anything. That's why what's the name of them? Pillow princesses? Pillow princess?
Pillow
What is
princess?
that?
Wait, what
A
was
pillow
that?
princess? You never heard that term?
What is a
Pillow-
I
pillow
never heard of
princess?
that.
Me
A pillow
neither.
princess is basically like when the girl just kind of just like she just lays down there and you just pipe it. Like you're doing all the
So
movement.
missionary, is that the proper terminology for that? I never heard.
You never heard of
that
pillow
one.
princess?
No, because I'm a missionary person. However,
It's
not
I
just
like
vanilla?
to be on top if I'm in that mood, but I feel like I could still be pleasured and get pleasure in a missionary position, but that's depending on your talents too, right? So I think that, but that goes back to you, like, does it really make a difference for someone who's been banging guys or whoever for the past few months versus someone who hasn't been sexually active for a couple of years? So when you're asking me, does size matter? I don't really know, but based on my experience, I just feel like there's a perception of if you're packing, then that's great. Or if you got an anaconda, then that's great. When you know as a female, most females, you can't handle what you anatomy can't give you, right? So if you're 6 inches and based on your anatomy, it doesn't matter if he's 12. You only could take in 6
inches. Gotcha.
period. Unless you don't mind getting some internal bleeding work done.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying?
Oh man.
But this is based
Yeah.
upon me working in the healthcare field. Like, I've seen a lot of things. And I've encountered a lot of things, whether it's sexually related or not. But at the end of the day, facts is facts, right? If you're 3 inches, it's like some people are okay with 3 inches because they get pleasure in other ways that their partner can provide to them, because that's the whole point of knowing someone's love language, getting to know someone and know what's pleasurable to them. Because like I said, what I may think pleasurable to someone who I'm now entering a new sexual relationship with may not be pleasurable to him. Or the way he does it to her and 30 other people is not what I care for at all. So
And so does that mean because of the exchange of energies, if you were to get into like another like relationship or if it goes sexual, do you have to vet that person's like past so you don't get, you know, that bad energy exchange?
honestly, I feel like you usually know what you're dealing with, because people who are not over their ex or their situation will tend to bring that up on a regular, kind of like not on a regular basis, but I feel like they bring it up more than they need to. I find that people who are not completely over someone or a situation, or who are still going through their healing process but putting up a front that they're good, usually could pick up on that. And that's one baggage I am not willing to have at my door.
So that's like a tell. That's like a red flag. That you can
Definitely a red flag.
You know, because it's like because it's most of the time it's insecurities. You know, like for instance, like moving on, like you know that you can't be with this person anymore, whatever the case may be, and you meet somebody new. Like subconsciously, sometimes you try to like bring back the past, or sometimes you try to like, you know, have the person do little things that your ex would like, you know, do, like, oh, my ex used to do this, that, the third, or this, that, the third, and she would be like, yo, like, I don't care, what the fuck, like, what is
Right.
that, you know? So it's like some people are not so conscious of that, you know. But as far as like, you know, being intimate, like, what are some things that, you know, that you know would like a man to, you know, to do with you in bed?
You can't be asking me things like that, because the thing is with me is like, I'm a romancer.
Oh, okay.
I've always been the romantic
So like the
type
pedals
who goes,
all the way to
I'm
the bed.
like that one to plan things and always want to like, yeah.
Oh, okay. So certain, not like in the wind about it. Like, oh, get ready at this time. I'm gonna pick you
I mean,
up.
I don't need to really. I feel like in a relationship, when you're really in tune with someone, like if we're dating, right, and we're on the phone, and I could tell you're having a rough day, it's like, I don't need to tell you what I'm doing for you, but in the back of my mind, I'm already planning. Like, let me cook something. Let me throw on a little something. Oh, he'll be home by 6. Let me make sure I take a shower and get the bath. Like, I'm kind of like that person. Or let me just throw, like, a trench coat with heels on and just, like, surprise him at the door. You know what I mean? So I feel like it really depends on how open you are and what that healthy sex life looks like to you and your partner, what that intimacy looks like. For me, intimacy could be us watching Netflix and talking shit all day. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a shit talker. I like to talk shit. As much as I'm a business person, I live in my youth side. Like, and I think people misconstrue that because now they want to take, she doesn't know too much, or let me take advantage, but the thing is, that's when shit hits the fan because they don't realize that I could transition real quickly.
Real quick.
Like Navy SEAL type shit.
Yeah, like it's like instant. So I think when it comes to intimacy for me, because I'm a romantic person, it hits a little different for me. It comes naturally for me. My love language is really just different. But in that, I'm not like a public affectionate person per se.
Ooh, no PDA from you?
It depends.
If there's nobody around, like, yo.
I mean, I'm okay with people being around. I just feel like there could be a little too much. There could be a balance. You know what I mean? Like, I know guys say a lady in the streets and a freak in the sheets, but I feel like sometimes that freakiness can translate into the public eye, especially if you are a business person. Like, you know what I mean?
Brand.
Yeah, I just feel like...
And Boston's small, too, so...
I mean, I grew up in Boston. The world is small. But I think it's more about how you carry that love and that PDA. Like, we don't need to show everyone that we're in the bedroom when we're not in the bedroom. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it could be playful, a kiss. Like, but that's me. But everyone's PDA is different. Like, I'm okay with it. I think there's a time and place for it. And then with that, check your insecurities.
Yeah. What are all the different types of love languages?
I gotta
Wasn't
look
there, like,
that up for
wasn't
you.
there, like,
So
5 or
there's affirmation. I
Like,
gotta
you that
look them up.
bitch. Like, that's affirmation?
No, like kind of. That's how you feel though.
Yo, Shay, can you please fire talk to her, please? Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna go down the list of what they are. There should be 5 of them.
So you said affirmations.
I believe affirmation was one of them. Love is active will.
Active will.
Uh-huh.
I'm not even sure what that means.
Okay, so I'm going to go into that. So, word of affirmation, hearing or offering assurance through words. Physical touch, love manifested as intimacy and presence. Acts of service, offering one's time, energy, or resources to benefit the other without expectation.
Oh, sounds like me.
Gifts, love spoken as a surprise, the gifted object. I feel like that's tricky because people who are materialistic are always going to look for gifts.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Well, I can kind of relate because, like, you know,
You're a gold digger?
No, I'm not a gold digger. I wish. I need
ain't
money.
saying he's
But
a
I'm
gold
saying-
digger.
But I was just saying, like, materialistic. Sometimes, like, me, like, as an African, like, I have to think, like, oh, man, like, I got to get her this. I got to get her that. But, like, I need to just, like, be there emotionally, think, like, just ask her, like, yo, okay, so what do you like? She tells me, oh, I like flowers. I like going out every week. I like food. I'm like, oh, I like that too. But the flowers, I'll work with you with that. So, like, you know, like, I'm not no cheapskate. Nah.
Right.
Like,
I think there's a line and there's a balance when it comes to that. I think females struggle with gifts. Like, for me, I'm big on giving, right? And that could be taken advantage of. If I go out and I'm like, oh, this reminded me of you, I'm just gonna buy it. Like, it just comes second nature. However, and you talking about females, guys are the same way too. sorry to say, like, I mean, for me, I transition my energy when it comes to that, because now it's like, as much as I would love to give, now I have to hold myself back from giving, because because what I've learned too is, and what I've been told is that guys love to give, right? Because that could be one way of them expressing that they care. However, in giving, it's like now turned into a competition thing. Like, if I get you a $500 watch, you're like, well, damn, like,
now I got one up here.
now,
I
right?
hate
It's
that.
like, damn, I can't just get you $20 roses from Stop and Shop. You know what I
Right.
mean? But for me, it's like, it's the thought.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't look at it as I just spent $500 on this watch for someone I care about. It's more like, damn, like, I was feeling this watch, I thought about you, I got it for you. But now it becomes like an ego thing where, you know, like, now you gotta tread lightly of how much you give, what you give. And it's like, I just want to be me.
Yeah, of
you
course.
know? So,
But sometimes when, you know, like, when everything is, you know, where it doesn't feel like there's like a price tag, you know, attached to it, the what is it called?
Reciprocation?
Reciprocity. Reciprocity.
Reciprocating.
It feels like it's sincere. It feels
it's
like
imbalance.
it's authentic too.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what draws, you know, relationships to be stronger, because it's like not everything has to feel like it's a task. You know,
Yeah.
you don't want to feel like, oh, I gotta do this so she can be off my back, or oh, I gotta do this. So like, nah, like, it's about like the gesture too, because if they really see that you're sincere, that you actually put a lot in in the gift to them, like, that's that's a
thought.
love, the thought, that's a love language as well.
I'd take a
But
blowjob.
that's-
Sorry.
You would be the physical.
Let's go. Yeah, you know.
I mean, does that blowjob come with cottage cheese and STDs? I mean, I just want to know these things.
Cottage cheese. Oh man, you just ruined blowjobs for me.
I'm being realistic. So let me tell you a story about blowjobs, right?
Oh shit.
This isn't gonna be on the medical side. I'm sorry if I'm gonna ruin everyone's appetite, but I
ain't
just had to
ruined my
share this
appetite.
since we.
No, it's all good.
But anyway, so in regards to blowjobs, I didn't have this client, but there was a client that came into the hospital because he had issues with his penis, and what happened was they couldn't really figure out what was going on, because, you know, we're very like specific when it comes to the medical field, and book focus when it comes to certain signs and symptoms. But long story short, it didn't fit any of the STDs. However, his girlfriend had strep.
Oh shit.
And with her performing her oral pleasures to her boyfriend,
I didn't know strep dick was a thing.
Strep
well,
dick.
it's a bacteria, right? So when you're giving someone any oral, anything, male or female, what happened was, because she was giving him a blowjob while she had strep, now that bacteria has like crawled up the urethra, and so caused issues with that. And then we had to figure out a way to treat strep in the penis, which, I mean, I've been in the healthcare field for so long that every time I hear a story that I think I'm mind blown, something else comes up. So I just embrace the stories that I hear. But I was very young at the time when I heard that story.
I'm so blessed.
I just want to share that because get tested.
Yeah. But strep hurts. Like, she's a trooper. She has no respect for her throat. That's crazy.
I mean, she didn't have respect for his penis or her throat, and neither did he. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it could happen with mono, I'm assuming. I mean, strep does hurt, though. Strep is like, you can't even drink regular liquid without it burning. So, I mean, you can take the blowjob over intimacy if you want. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, everyone should be safe. And I feel like nowadays people have lost sight of that. And it's gotten worse, especially with like monkeypox coming out, COVID.
Oh man.
These are like just newer things to add on to the list that we already had in the past, and we just don't teach people enough about it. So before you start smoking and getting intimate, please make sure that you're clean.
Makes sense.
Please.
Yes.
Or wear a condom. Either or. I'll take either or.
Condom
Something.
during a blowjob? Okay. Well, but
That's like eating a popsicle with the wrapper on.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, figure it out.
can I ask you about your spirituality?
ooh, this is
You
fun.
can.
So, just talking to you, I feel like you take a lot from different different like cultures. So I know that we were talking about voodoo, we were talking about Reiki, and then we're talking about like reincarnation. Is that isn't that more in like the Buddhist or Hinduism kind of side of things?
So, long story short, for me, when it comes to spirituality, so I think I've heard it best when someone said religion has pretty much has boundaries, right? Because there's certain things that you believe in, right? At the end of the day, spirituality doesn't have those boundaries. It just shows you that there's truth to a little bit of everything in everyone's religion. It's just really applying it to how you feel fits in your life and your belief system. Because I grew up Catholic. I mean, we got the basics of what the Bible was and, you know, the Christmas story. But as I grew wiser, I wasn't connected to that. And I think my tipping point when it came to that is I remember asking one of the priests at a church that I went to. And even though I was young, he didn't have a response for my question. And that's a red flag for me, because it's like, how you sitting here, no judgment. It was just my perspective at that time. Like, you don't have the answers, right?
Sway.
Never had the answers though.
When I presented that question, I forget what the question was, but he couldn't answer. It was kind of like, well, what the fuck am I really doing? You know what I mean? Like, I knew there's something bigger than me. I know there's a God, the universe, the ultimate intelligence, whatever you want. At the end of the day, I feel like we come from the same source. Over the years, we've just learned to break it down because people want control of what that looks like. And then everyone kind of just added their own two-piece. Like, we believe in all of that, but it makes us different because we don't do that. You know what I mean? But so for me, spirituality isn't a religion. It's really what you believe in. And there's a little truth to everything. You know what I mean? That's what spirituality is. It's been around before us. Religion came after, at least from my perspective, right? So, I mean, that's just my journey. There's beliefs that I'm not closed-minded to other people's religions and their cultural beliefs. I take a little bit of everything. I hear what they have to say. I could agree to disagree. I don't have to say anything at all. Honestly, I could just listen to what you're saying. If it resonates, it resonates. And if it doesn't, that's that. Like, we don't talk about politics and religion for those reasons because it turns into a thing.
Yeah.
But I know when to walk away from situations like that because I don't need to believe what you believe in. It doesn't make me a worse person. It doesn't make me a better person. But it definitely doesn't make you look any better or worse either. But some of the shit that you're saying doesn't align to what you're doing.
Yeah, like
you see what I'm saying?
I definitely do.
So,
because I met somebody who was like pro-black. He was like teaching kids about, you know, black, you know, history and all that. Then he said, "Yo, I'm rocking with Trump," and I said, "Wait, hold up, Straggy, what?" You know what I mean? I'm like, but again, like, this is America. Everybody has that, you know, mentality. Sometimes a person it's non sequitur. Everybody, whether they're, you know, some people would say that, oh, they're pro this, but then like they do that. You know, so it's like sometimes you gotta see what it is. I'm like, all right, cool. But as long as you don't infringe upon my freedom, as long as you don't infringe upon other people's freedoms with your belief, we can all coexist. Pin each other against like different religions.
Cause conflict.
Yeah, because that's what, you know, in the end of that's what some politicians want us to do. You know, to kind of take our eyes off the ball. You know, when it comes to because like love shouldn't be a distraction. You know, love your neighbor. You know, they teach. That's one of the things that they teach in all of the religions, from Christianity,
what is
Islam.
Love? So this is what we talked about earlier, right? We talked about love, but everyone's perspective of how they grew up on love, what they see love as, is different. So when you say, yeah, we should love each other, not everyone knows how to love themselves first properly for them to show other people love. And so how do you do that if,
Like what you said, you just break it down. You know, because that's how.
but what if I'm not willing to do that?
Then let all things, let bygones be bygones. Because
But
in
that's
the end
where
of
the
the day,
conflict is.
but to walk away, that's still conflict.
The
Because
person
you
who's
found
walking
peace?
away is called growth.
Yeah.
The person who can't handle it, that when you walk away, is conflicting, because that's going to want to pull you back. That person wants a reaction from you. So you walking away is like, how dare you do that? Like, people feel hurt, betrayed by that. You want to talk about sensitive. Some people get sensitive when people walk away. They choose themselves or their peace over whatever bullshit they're bringing to the table. So how do you balance that out with someone? If you're walking away for your benefits, how do you react to someone who can't accept you walking away?
That's a good question. And have you dealt with that a lot?
Me walking away? I've become a pro of cutting people off.
I got to learn from the master.
Is that
I have become a pro of cutting people off. Walking away is one thing. Cutting people off is a different thing, right? So when you're walking away, you're pretty much saying, I'm going to give you 5. Like, same thing guys do with females, right? If your girl is nagging you and if she's not really pushing that button, because she will try to push that button, right? To look for a reaction from you, right? But if you're like, yo, babe, I'm going to let you chill out. I'm going to go get. So people definitely, it's something I learned on my journey and my experience, is that people see things that you don't see in yourself, and that could cause a threat. And we talk about intimidation, but I've learned to embrace that word, because I know for a fact I carry a presence with me, and not everyone's going to like you, and they don't need to really have a reason not to like you. They just don't like you, right? And that's something my dad taught me at a very young age. Like, you could walk into a room and, someone may not like you, but it's true. I've experienced it. But my thing is, when you are, and so I talk about self-healing and self-love and self-care, when you get to that point of security and not giving a fuck about what people gotta say, because whoever supports you is gonna be in your life regardless of how that falls, right? So it does cause you to be grounded in self, but at the same time, it just makes you realize that people are miserable. They don't fucking love themselves. And so it's interesting, because I tell people, like, I love what I do, right, as a nurse. I love what I do. However, people make it hard to love them because they're just miserable. And the ones that are in a bad state of mind, or due to their medical diagnosis or medical history, they still kind-hearted. Like, it's something about them that moves you, that you'll go the extra 3, 4, 5,000 miles for them just because of how they treat you, looking at this situation that they're in, right? So for people who want to judge, or that this is what I mean, like, upon my journey in Reiki and spirituality, we talk about a lot of things, but people don't know how to put their actions and words into alignment, which comes off to be manipulating. I don't like to use that word too much, but technically that's what it boils down to. But with that being said, like, it makes you realize, and we talked about this, or cutting people off, like, you could now pinpoint people 1,000 miles away when they're coming your way, that you're like, I see where you're coming from. But for me, in my journey, like, I could feel it. I feel it first, and I always get a message or I get a sign, because I feel like, because I am so laid back, and people might look at it as being naive, where I'm just chilling. Like, honestly, I don't have time to think about what you're thinking, other things. I have other things that I need to focus on, and I have a mission and purpose on this earth plane in this lifetime that I don't have time for you to hold me back. So, in going back to what you were saying, a lot of people, your haters, whatever you want to call them, your motivators, whatever the fuck, what happened is I've learned that they see qualities in you, right? So, in seeing those qualities in you, they hate on you because they want those qualities, or they don't know how to access those qualities within self. So now they do everything to project, like bully, saying, things that don't, like the shade, like just little inappropriate things that will bring your energy and yourself, your security within self, where your confidence might be in jeopardy. So people play these like different tactics, whether it's spirituality, if they know you're highly spiritual and they know your ranking is high, they try to tap into that energetically. Mentally, people will try to tap into your head if they get into like a weakness. Like once someone finds your weakness, depending on the person, they fucking like run with it.
Achilles
You know
heel.
what I mean?
Achilles heel.
And most of the time it happens when we bring them into like the house, or when we really like, yo, all right, this person's different. But that's that's where it just gets wrong, because we miscalculate, like our perception of people, because sometimes their intentions are so
Dirty.
dirty, so dirty.
Grimy, yeah.
But they telling you, yo, this is really how I am.
Because you have a representative of who you want to present. And I remember hearing this, like, they pretty much said it was a high percentage. I'm going to be nice with the numbers. Between 95 to 98% of the time, people always have some type of motive. And it's not always good, but if you got to break it down too, though, people's backgrounds, how they were raised, people that they're around, them seeing things outside the box, which usually they love to live in their own little world because they think it's perfect when there's so much more to see out there. And so with what I was saying, like as soon as I feel it, like I'm just like, you gotta go. Because once I feel like because I know how balanced I am. So once I feel like it's shifting and you're the cause of that shift, I might give you a warning and be like, yo, I don't know what's going on with you. You might want to check your energies, who you've been around. Because I'll go down the list. Like, who, what, why?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, can you get... And the thing is, as a friend, it sucks because I'm not telling you what to do, but I want to protect you in a way because you're my friend. But people are not on the same page. And so, some people believe and some people don't. So they're going to do what they want to do. However, if it starts affecting me, then I got to let you go. Yeah. And it sucks because people don't really realize how much it takes out of you. Like you're going like, it feels like a breakup. You know what I mean? Like, damn, what am I going to say? Yeah. I love this person. Like they've been in my life for like a couple of years. Like, why you got to fuck up?
That's so crazy. I was at work. I was so crazy. Yo, this is a true story. I was at work, right? Talking to my friend, and she was telling me about this guy she was talking to for like 7 months, and it's like, yo, I just feel like his intentions is not there. He's saying like he wants to be friends, but at the same time he wants to explore. And I said, I told him, wait, so you talk to your friends about this, right? Yeah, my female friends. No, you need to talk to your male friends. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna tell you, when somebody says something like that,
let them in.
No. Because she's... No. I'm protecting her. But yeah, like, nah. I told him, like, straight up, nah. First of all, he lives all the way here. You here.
Distance?
Yeah, long distance. And on top of that, it's like, y'all known each other for 7 months. And he's saying, like, oh, I'm just so attracted to you, this, that, third.
But see, this is my problem, and that's interesting that you say that, because I feel like I've had my fair share of hearing things like that, and I think people are used to hearing certain things that make them feel good, but they can't recognize that the way they're being treated isn't good. Do you see what I'm saying?
What if he said he was going to go explore, but only just happy people? So when he comes back and gives you the dick, he's only giving you good energy exchanges.
Yeah, but how many happy energy are you spreading that energy to other people who don't deserve it? And why would you want to spread that happy energy to people who are non-deserving of it, and then bring that non-deserving energy to my panani. Like, no, it's not
Because you
working
want to
out.
get your,
I mean, until we could come, if we both have an agreement where we're like, okay, like, this is what it is, I feel like this is where communication and being transparent falls into place. Because if you're communicating what you want and what you're looking for, right, instead of telling me what you think I want to hear and then doing your own shit and then finding out, and then I had to find out the bullshit you're doing. And this is why guys call females crazy, but, or vice versa. And what I tell people is, it's not that we're crazy. It's the fact that you guys do dumb shit, female or male, and now you're getting the reaction of the dumb shit that you did. It doesn't make us crazy. We're human. We have a right to feel how we feel. So if she feels like she needs to key up your car because you cheated, then
said,
that's
"Go for
her
it,
level of
baby."
crazy. Right. I'm not, see, for me, personally, I'm not doing that. Okay? That's never been a thing that I needed to get revenge for. How I've grown to let the universe deal with that.
Okay.
Because I've learned from other people.
Well, what's the craziest thing you've done?
I haven't.
Nothing?
No. What am I going to do? I mean,
You said key up a car.
I use that as an example of what crazy is, because people like to use that term loosely.
Okay.
Because I've dealt with people or been in a relationship where I was cheated on. And so I was called crazy because I wanted to confirm with this female that I found out about.
Oh, gaslighting. So that.
I mean, call it what you want. Gaslighting, lying, hiding, secrecy. It was more like, oh, now I'm crazy because I'm calling this female that I just found out about, that I've been checking you about, you know what I mean? Versus, oh, you're fucking with this bitch? Let me go slash your tires. Like, I'm not that person. However, in not being that person and even stopping other people who wanted to take those actions for me, I had to stop them, because I had to think quickly, like, if I give you the okay to do that, that karma comes for me too.
Yeah.
I'm always like a step deeper than what it is. So I've learned to, like, if you hurt me, I got to deal with that hurt myself in my own therapeutic way. But don't get it twisted. That hurt's going to come back 10 times more. And whatever I could ever do to you will not satisfy what the universe has in store for you. I'd rather not. I'd rather just walk away, because I have other battles I need to deal with in wars. I'm not going to fuck around and just, hold up my whole soldier over a battle that is not really, you're not doing shit. You ain't got no firearms. You know what I mean? Like, you got no protection. So what exactly am I going back and forth with you about?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and why would I want to jeopardize my karma? Like, we talk about karma a lot, but people don't realize how deep that goes.
Yeah.
Like, it goes really deep.
Oh, yeah.
So
Sometimes that thing follows you too.
it does follow you.
There's been times where karma definitely followed me a few times, and I definitely quickly learned from it. And you know what I'm saying, like, for instance, like me, damn, I don't know.
About to talk about your whole face?
Nah, I'm a. There has to be another. We gotta go to another episode, like most hoes or something, bro. Yeah, but I was like 20 when I was 21 through 28.
I feel like most guys go.
But
most
not 28,
people go
26.
through that.
Go through a whole face?
I mean, majority. I mean, I can't speak for everyone, because I don't feel like I had a whole phase. I felt like my whole level was because I was talking to multiple people, but I was dating. We weren't in a relationship.
So you're dating multiple people?
I mean, so the thing is, okay, so let's have this conversation real quick. Dating is you getting to know people, right? It doesn't mean just because if I'm dating you because I'm like, oh, he has great conversation because that's something that turns me on, mentally stimulated. He brings that to the table. I'll be like, damn, I love being with you because you're present. You know, your presence is different, your energy. Like, you're chilling. You want to take me out to dinner. That doesn't mean I'm fucking y'all. I'm getting to know you. So I don't need to have sex with you or be on a physical aspect of you if I'm not ready for that, for dating to be bad. So yeah, if I'm dating multiple people, if you feel a certain type of way about it, that's on you, because you know how you're dating. Your dating skills is not my dating skills. So if I choose to date 5 guys because I'm chilling and I'm trying to figure out who I really want to spend my time with, then that's my prerogative. But that doesn't mean that I'm fucking all 5 of y'all.
Are you kissing them?
If I find that really intimate, so for me, it takes a lot for me to kiss someone.
Going to 5 guys with 5 guys, that's crazy.
Because I feel like what kissing doesn't really protect you from anything else of being physical. Because if you have some type of mouth bacterial, whatever, I could get that.
Oh, okay.
Do you see what I'm saying? So for me, kissing was always an intimate thing. So I had to be extremely comfortable to even get to that stage. So never mind the sex part. If you don't get kisses, you're probably not even getting to base 2. So that's just the way it's always been for me. I've had that flirtatious energy, but I worked in the entertainment world where I had to be in TV. Like, we carry that presence, but people who work with me, like my DJs when I did radio, they knew. They're like, what's up with Farah? They're like, don't even waste your time.
Oh, damn.
Like, they knew because, first of all, I was the only female out of a whole group of guys. I was already getting the forefront of who they were talking to, who was in relationships, and I just be looking at them sideways like, don't you got a girl out? You know what I mean? Like, because I feel like they carry me, right? They carry me as part of the male group. They forget, and then they turn around and try to holler at me. I'm like, did you forget? Like,
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's more of, let's see how far we can get, because even though they tried and it doesn't work, they're like, it didn't work that day. Let's try a different day. Until they realize, like, okay, it's been a couple of years. Like, Farah ain't talking to nobody.
Yo,
you know
that's
what
not
I mean?
awkward, though.
So, but that's just the way I roll. Like, I think a lot of people who knew the older version of me would tell you I was a savage because I would blow up people's spots. Like,